all the participants. I, Gautam Bapat, welcome all of you on behalf of Dr. Vishwanath Karad, MIT World Peace University, for the 4-day international conference on eradication of biological and chemical weapons, organized by MIT School of Government, Bharatiya Chhatra Sansad, and supported by UNESCO Chair. Today, we all have gathered here for day 3, session number 6, Redefining Defence Doctrine, Border Security to Human Security. And we all have gathered here today for this very, very important discussion. And to join us in this discussion, we have dignitaries with us today. We have Lieutenant General Nirbhay Sharma ji with us. Welcome, sir, on behalf of MIT World Peace University. We have Lieutenant General Zameer Uddin Shah ji. Welcome, sir, on behalf of MIT World Peace University. And we also have with us Honorable Padma Shri Prakash Singh ji as the eminent speaker of this session. Thank you, everyone, for joining in this session. And on the panel, we also have our beloved founder, Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karad, sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor of MIT World Peace University, Dr. N.T. Rao, sir. We also have on panel the Pro-Vice Chancellors of MIT World Peace University, Dr. Rajiv Thakur as the moderator of this session, Professor Dr. Ravi Kumar Chitniji, Professor Dr. Milind Pandeyji, Professor Dr. Shaileshri Haridas Madam, and many more. Thank you, everyone, for joining in for this important session. And before we go any further, I would like to request the moderator of this session, Professor Dr. Rajiv Thakur, Pro-Vice Chancellor of MIT World Peace University, to kindly propose introduction of this session. Over to you, sir. Thakur, sir, over to you. IT team, any issues?
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Sir, please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you, Professor Gautam. Good afternoon, esteemed dignitaries, esteemed experts in today's session, and all the members who are attending this very important session on the 3rd day. The topic of the session, Redefining Defence Doctrine, Border Security to Human Security, in my mind is of high strategic importance, as well as it raises a larger point: security. Security for whom? Security for what? Ladies and gentlemen, one has been aware that world peace is often disturbed or unbalanced by forces like national rivalries, terrorism, border disputes. However, today, a totally different force, namely COVID-19, a virus, has caused a worldwide pandemic. While countries through their healthcare policies and scientists through their research are looking forward towards solving the pandemic crisis, at the same time, the world, including our country, has been facing border and geopolitical tensions around. India is in a state where important policy decisions and choices have to be made between focusing on its military strength and flattening the curve of the number of COVID-19 cases. The coronavirus infection can be traced back to the lack of transparency and accountability of the government, which then spread to different parts of the world. Some of the popular theories and news floating around suggest that coronavirus was a way of a biological warfare released by a particular country. We don't know the truth. People are bound together by social cultural, and religious beliefs. A critical question then becomes, how do we recognize people through the geographically marked territories and boundaries? A further important question to deliberate upon is that in the military fight, whom are we protecting? In a state like that of a pandemic, where countries most unanimously be aiming at evading the crisis, must border issues take primacy over health and well-being of the people in the countries? In the process of expanding the nation and protecting nationalism of the country, we may often forget the building blocks of a nation, the people of the country. Militarization and the sacrifices of the army to protect our borders are instrumental in maintaining peace in the country. However, as media and politicians shift their focus from providing economic and health-related support to people hit by the pandemic, to bilateral talks and political strategies, one needs to look at the peace that we want to restore. The external one, or the one which is that we are all looking at as human beings? Is it that borders have become important than the lives of the people? Ladies and gentlemen, today we have three eminent experts on the subject in this panel who would be throwing light on few of these issues just mentioned. And there would be many more, I guess. On behalf of MIT World Peace University, sir, we welcome you all to this enlightening and thought-provoking deliberations that we all are waiting for. Thank you so much, and it is my proud privilege and an honor to be here sharing this panel with you esteemed guests, sir. Thank you. Over to Gautam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your introductory remarks. And now it's time that we understand the importance of this topic in little more detail. If I may request my technical team to kindly relay a small film made on this topic today. Over to you.
Post-COVID-19, global perspective on security has widened. It now includes not just the mainstream debates on military and terrorism threats, but also threats like COVID-19. Our enemy is not guns, bombs, but also invisible yet lethal threats like the coronavirus. Let us redefine Defence Doctrine from border security to human security at International Conference on Eradication of Biological and Chemical Weapons.
Thank you very much for that movie. And now, before I begin with this session formally and request the honorable speakers to address the gathering, it is now time for the memorable photograph moment. I request everyone in the panel to, if they could please switch on their cameras. Milind Pandey sir, if I may request you, Dr. Chitnis sir, if I may request you, if you can please put on your camera, we can capture this picture perfect moment with all the dignitaries on the dais. Thank you, Chitnis sir. Milind Pandey sir, if I may request. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining in. And let's share a smile on our faces so that this moment can be captured by the camera. Well, not actually a camera now, but by a mouse click, I would say.
Nilesh, have we done?
It's done, sir.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in this very, very important session. And now let's proceed with the next point on agenda, and which is, let us, in every session, we have been giving a chance to our young citizens of our nation, the representatives of young India, to understand from them that what exactly do they feel about this conference and about one particular topic. And to represent Young India, we have with us Mr. Chinmay Bendre, who is from MIT World Peace University. I request Chinmay Bendre to represent the Young India and share his thought with us. Over to you, Mr. Chinmay.
A very warm welcome to all the esteemed speakers, panelists, and your audience. As the global community is grappled with COVID-19 pandemic, leaders across the world have expressed solemn resolve to redefine defense doctrines to prepare civil society to mitigate risks arising from unforeseen events of such magnitude in the future. In this exemplary expression of coordination and cooperation, India has a unique opportunity to assume leadership role. Very recently, India has been elected as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council and has also assumed presidency of the World Health Assembly for a stint of 3 years. India's agenda of new orientation for a reformed multilateral system is widely believed to shape global security apparatus, but more importantly, it explicitly endorses human development as an inalienable aspect of defense doctrine. In this quest for progressive human-centric security policy, the world community should strive to identify core ingredients of human development which naturally paves way for human security. Firstly, the ingredient of financial security. An assured basic income for all from productive work or as a last resort from a publicly financed safety net is crucial in times of rapid digitization. It is brought to our notice by the UN Development Programme that the unemployment problem and financial constraints may result in political tension and ethnic violence. Secondly, the ingredient of food security. Nearly a fifth of the global population does not have adequate access to 1 square meal a day, according to UN Environment Programme's own admission. Affordability, availability, and accessibility of nutritious food is a fundamental human right. Absence of food security has a significant bearing on large sections of our society and the women in particular, owing to their nutritional requirements, especially during reproductive stage. Thirdly, the ingredient of social and community security. We must secure traditional ties, foster new relations, and transcend beyond parochial interests. Addressing sectarian, racial, and ethnic divides is the call of the hour. At present, protection of vulnerable communities, minorities, and indigenous populations is required more so than any before, especially in the backdrop of racial violence that has erupted in the United States of America. Finally, ingredient of political security. Respect for diverse traditions, customs, cultures, values, and rights of the people assumes priority to celebrate oneness of all humankind. According to Amnesty International, political repression or state suppression is the single largest threat to human development in nearly 100 countries. Rule of law, access to justice, and liberal democracy is essential for overall development of human faculty. Therefore, human security must incorporate diverse aspects of individuals' freedom to lead just and honorable lives. Inequality of opportunities, status, and before law has claimed more innocent lives than external transgression.
Yes, I can only hear the audio. The video is not.
In a way, our understanding of border security must widen to include human security. We must refuse to make false dichotomy between security and development. To conclude, I am convinced that the post-COVID-19 world shall provide necessary trust for human-centric
Log in again.
to domestic, foreign, and security policies. Defense doctrines shall be redefined, and to that extent, India shall emerge as a global leader in promoting the mantra of security for all and security for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chinmay. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and representing Young India, which is one of the most important factors. Thank you very much. If I may request my technical team, there was some kind of disturbance in between. Please take care of the mics. Thank you very much. And now it's time that I move forward with the next point on agenda, and there I'm going to invite our first eminent speaker of this session to share his thoughts. But before I invite him, there is one request for everyone in the audience. Well, my friends, we would be more than happy to accept your questions that you would like to ask to all the dignitaries on the dais. I request you to please post your questions only in Q&A box. Please do not share your questions in the chat window. We will not be able to address your questions. So I request you to only post your questions in Q&A section and find my name there. My name is Gautam Bapat. Please find my name there. You will find my name and please post your questions directly to me so that I'll be able to share those questions with the dignitaries. This gives me a hint to share with the speakers, esteemed speakers of this session, that we have kept time in reserve for questions and answers. And we have seen that many questions do keep coming to us. So I request you to please keep your talk to 15 minutes so that we can give allotted time to questions and answers. Thank you. And now I would like to take the honor and privilege to introduce you to the first eminent speaker of this session, Lieutenant General Nirbhay Sharmaji, PVSM, UISM, AVSM, VSM, and former governor of the state of Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh.
Don't worry. Everything is fine.
He says to log in again.
So आपको hang
technical team, I'm getting some audio inputs. Could you please check? Please ensure that everybody is on mute. Thank you very much. Lieutenant General Nirbhay Sharmaji is the former governor of the state of Mizoram and former governor of the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Born in Lucknow in 1946, he is an alumnus of the National Defence Academy and was commissioned in the Indian Army in 1966. General Sharmaji is one of the most distinguished and decorated field commanders of Indian Army. Most of his assignments have dealt with Jammu and Kashmir and the northeastern states. The last assignment being as Corps Commander and Security Advisor to the government of J&K. During the period, his landmark contribution in fighting the ongoing proxy war in Kashmir, including the successful conduct of paramilitary and assembly elections, parliamentary and assembly elections are well known. Apart from the brilliantly directing anti-terrorist operations of over 1 lakh elements of security forces, he has accomplished, including the construction of anti-infiltration obstacle system along with the line of control. After 40 years of distinguished service in Army, General Sharmaji was appointed member of Union Public Service Commission of India. As the constitutional authority, he presided over the interview boards on the departmental promotion committees to select officers for the civil services. He also examined the framing and amendment of the recruitment and services rule and commented on disciplinary cases. With MSc and MPhil in Defence Studies from Madras University, he is widely recognized as strategic thinker and defence analyst. Sir, it is indeed our honor and privilege to have you here today to discuss such an important topic with us. Without wasting a single more minute, I hand over the control to you. Over to you, sir. So your mic is mute. If you could please unmute yourself. Yeah, thank you. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Well, it is indeed a pleasure to be here to participate in a conference which is being organized by the MIT. And I must thank and compliment Honorable Vishwanath ji and Rahul ji both for thinking of this topic. It's highly relevant and timely, and I think it is a global concern, and this conference is a clarion call of sorts. Because it affects the entire global human security and safety. The panel has other two participants. One, Shah, Shah, an old friend and a colleague of mine from the good old National Defence Academy days, and Mr. Prakash Singh, a well-known personality, a police officer par excellence. What I intend doing is, because this is already day 3 of the conference and you have covered a lot of ground, what I intend doing is just to bring out certain salient things which relate to the topic which has been given, and that is redefining defense doctrine, that is from border security to human security. If there are some questions, we'll tackle them later. Because there is a view, and very rightly, that we have been starkly inefficient to protect our citizens against COVID-19 as a world community. We have spent trillions of dollars in creating hard military power, weapon systems, and defense infrastructure, but all this is lying idle for want of medical care, doctors, equipment. We are losing lives every day. Therefore, the question is, which comes to the mind of many people, that why spend so much on all this? Instead, what we need to do is to look at the human security part. Well, it is really not a gun versus butter debate or a hard military power versus healthcare. It's much more than that. As you go along, you will find that there is something more to it, because on the other side, people say that, look, despite best of healthcare in the world, there are countries in Europe and in the West which have suffered the most. They have not been able to tackle this problem. So it's not a simple problem, and it's not an easy answer. What I intend doing is to just flag a few things which we need to see and remain within the confines of this topic. That is redefining the defense doctrine. That means in the context of human security, how do we look at the overall defense doctrine? I'll start first of all by just stating that defense, what is defense doctrine? A high-sounding word, but basically it aims to protect and promote our core national interests of any country for that matter. These may be strategic, economic, social, or territorial. And ladies and gentlemen, you must understand that hard military power is just one of the tools of statecraft, not the only tool. In fact, I would like to compare it with a game of golf, where you have various clubs to deal from teeing off till you make a hole. Therefore, what we need to see is what is this border security and how does it relate to human security? We must remember that this pandemic that we are talking about is transnational. It has no boundaries, no borders. But in any case, hard borders came into being only after World War I, really speaking. Before that, the entire world was in a way transnational. Our communications may not have been so good, but people were moving from one part of the continent or one part of the world to the other to do trade, to promote culture, and so on. So therefore, what we need to also remember that when we are talking about border security, we are talking about, in our context particularly, an undefined border and a hostile adversary. In that context, border security assumes quite a bit of importance, because without it, we will not be able to pursue any of our other goals. Our national interest would be harmed. And therefore, border security per se has its own core place, and it is actually dynamic. It changes. As long as our national interests are safeguarded, it will change. Another thing which I must point out, and particularly to the young participants who may not be so well aware, may be elementary to the experts, that when we talk of security today, we are talking about hard borders, but we must remember that there is no distinction between war and peace now. The threat is from within and without. So these lines have been blurred, and one type of threat merges with the other. And in the same context, in the same continuum, you must look at human security as well. We could talk about this later, but what I would like to bring out is that human security aspect or human safety aspect has had impact and is result has resulted in economic inequality. And we know it very well that marginalized section of the society suffers the most in this kind of pandemic. Also, it is also an outcome of a concentrated power and the ability to use this with impunity to promote one's own interest, which plays a part. What is most important is that this recent pandemic, whether it is an outcome of a consequence of a natural evolution or jury is still out, we don't know. But if it is not, what if it was intentional? And if it was intentional, then we have a problem at hand, because then the canvas extends from one end, from a border right to our homes, and it has to be seen in one continuum. But we need to remember this, that this is not something which is new. Chemical and biological weapons have been used since time immemorial. They were used during the two world wars, they have been used thereafter, and therefore it is something that we have to be prepared for. And that is where the conventions for biological warfare and chemical warfare, but if you study them and if you find that the verification and monitoring mechanisms are not very strong. Many countries may have agreed but have not ratified it, and so on. And many, particularly, not many are keen to enable others or an independent body to verify or monitor. That is where the problem is. Another thing, this pandemic has shown us something more. Apart from the number of casualties and the lives that we are losing, it has had some very positive impact in terms of certain lessons. Today, you will find that we have when you go around today, travel, you find the amount of energy, that fuel that we are saving, because the movement is restricted. Similarly, the environmental degradation which had taken place, and its impact is seen. Earlier on, when we talked about it, when we talked about environment, it just remained something, oh, it will happen to somebody, it will not going to happen to us. But today we have realized it, and therefore, this pandemic has given us one house or one country. It is a global phenomenon. That is yet another area which we need to look at when we are trying to complete the picture. Well, this I thought would be the initial presentation of mine. In conclusion, I would say that manipulation of natural disaster has been there for a long time. We have to accept it. We have to harden ourselves, and we have to build very strong bio-defense structures. The research, the bio-research on this is required, and there has to be a global voice. And I think a conference like this will go a long way in making people realize that this is something which is not just restricted to your drawing room. It is a global thing, and we all have to look out for it. The other thing is, whether we like it or not, the hypocrisy with regard to enforcement of verification and monitoring of weapons, whether it's a biological or chemical, has to be exposed, and we have to, as a community, as a world body, have to come out very strongly. The other thing is, as far as our military security or our defense security is concerned, as a soldier, nobody appreciates the value of peace than a man in uniform, because we have seen what it means. But you can only be secure and peaceful if you are strong. Your deterrent has to be credible. And therefore, as far as border security is concerned, it is not a debate between border security and human security. It's a question of realigning yourself in the two. And that is all, because like the old saying that as far as border security is concerned, unless you are strong, unless you are prepared for war, you can't prevent a war. But that is only part of it. That is all that I'd like to say. And once again, I would like to thank the MIT and the organizers for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to subsequent debates and interaction.
Thank you, sir.
Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Thank you very much. It is indeed honor and privilege to listen to your words. But definitely, sir, let me share with you that we have almost 401 people live in this conference right now, and they all are listening to you. And they would start pouring in questions in a few minutes from now. So let's keep some time in reserve. And thank you very much that you kept that time in reserve. Now it is time that I introduce you to the next eminent speaker of this session, Lieutenant General Zameer Uddin Shahji, PVSM, SM, VSM, and he retired as the Senior General of the Indian Army. He last served as the Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Personnel and Systems, Indian Army. After retirement, he served for some time as the administrative member of the bench of the Armed Forces Tribunal. He was the Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University. Zameer Uddin Shahji was born on 15th of August 1948 in Uttar Pradesh, India, an alumnus of St. Joseph College, Nainital. He is the brother of the noted Indian actor Naseeruddin Shah. General Shah holds a Master's Science degree in Defence Sciences from University of Madras and a Master of Philosophy degree from Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya University, Indore. Shahji attended the National Defence Academy in Khadakwasla, Pune city. He was commissioned Veer Rajputs. Shahji was later the Colonel Commandant of the Regiment of Artillery. He was also the Indian military attaché to Saudi Arabia. He had led the Indian Army during the Gujarat riots.
Sufficient funds for the gun, for the butter, or the medicines. So they are not contradictory, they are complementary. And at every stage, wherever funds have been diverted from the defense budget to go into something else, there's been an adverse impact on defense. During the 1990s, when we went over to liberalization, the defense budget was reduced to 2%. Now that hit the defense forces very hard. So there's nothing contradictory. I would like to say that India is a signatory to the biological and weapon, the biological weapon treaty. There are 12 countries which are not. Of special interest to India are China and Iran. These are not signatories to the NBC. Now, that can be problematic for us because we know that Pakistan so that two of our adversaries, that means China, it can give the knowledge to Pakistan. So can Iran. So this is something which will be of concern to us. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that although we have signed out, we will not make use of the biological and chemical weapons, but our policy states that any country that uses these against us will be met with a nuclear response. This is very, very important. We must realize that any country that targets India with a biological weapon will be a target of a nuclear response from India. That should be clearly understood. The second thing that has to be understood is that our DRDO, with their facility at the DRDE, is quite capable of finding out of protecting the Indian citizens from an attack. So these are very, very vital points, and we must be aware of them. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much for putting forth your views. And I'm sure with such a senior officers, or those who have the decorated officers of Indian Army, you would be able to guide all of us much more in detail than what we know. Thank you very much for that, sir. It is now indeed my honor and privilege to introduce you to the next guest speaker. But before I do that, I would like to once again request everyone in the audience to please ensure that you are sending me the questions in the question box only, because I can see some of the questions coming in into the chat box. But please remember that, my friends, I'll not be able to address your questions in the chat box. Thank you very much once again. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce you to the next guest speaker, the eminent speaker of this session, Padma Shri Prakash Singh ji, the chairman of Indian Police Foundation and Institute, former DG, BSF, former DGP Uttar Pradesh and Assam, former member of National Security Advisory Board and member of Justice Verma Committee. Shri Prakash Singh ji is a retired Indian Police Services officer who rose to the highest rank of Director General of Police, DGP. He has served as the Chief of Border Security Force, BSF, Uttar Pradesh Police and Assam Police. He is considered as one of the best police officer for his role as the key architect for police reforms in India. After his retirement from service in year 1996, he filed a public interest litigation in the Supreme Court of India. The landmark verdict of PIL came in year 2006, in which the Supreme Court has given the specific directions to the central and state governments to carry out structural changes in the police with the view to insulating from the extraneous pressures and making it accountable to the people. Following his clean and honest image, even after the retirement, he has been tasked to head inquiry committees on 2 different occasions. In February 2016, he was appointed by the government of Haryana to submit the report on roles of officers of civil administrations and police. In year 2003, the government of Andhra Pradesh had asked him to conduct an inquiry into the incident of mine blast. My friends, if I have to read his post-retirement activities, I mean, I cannot even read all his activities when he was in service, but even his post-retirement activities are also so big that I'll need almost half of this session to read them all. I mean, this is the kind of energy, this is the kind of work that one person can do is proved by the person in front of us. Without waiting and without wasting one more minute, I would hand over the charge to you, sir. Thank you very much for being with us today. Over to you, sir. So please unmute yourself. Your mic is mute.
Am I audible?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Gautam, for your words of introduction. First of all, I would like to thank the MIT World Peace University for organizing this discussion on a subject which is very vital in the present context, in the context of Wuhan virus, which has spread all over the world and caused havoc. And to date, more than nearly 5 lakh people have died across the world, and about 9.4 million are said to be affected by the coronavirus. So this is a huge number. And in India also, we have had nearly 15,000 deaths, and nearly 5 lakh people are affected by the pandemic. So it's a huge problem that we are having. And it is in this context that you have organized this conference on eradication of biological and chemical weapons. Now, biological and chemical weapons are very important, but actually in a larger context, if you view, we talk of CBRN weapons, the chemical weapons, the biological weapons, the radiological weapons, and the nuclear weapons. The weapons which constitute what are called weapons of mass destruction, which are a source of great concern and anxiety for people all over the world, because these weapons can cause havoc, and we all feel disturbed at the prospect of any country using them. Whatever happened at Wuhan and the virus which has affected so many people across the world, whether it was unintentional leakage or were they preparing a biological weapon which just got out of the bottle, nobody knows that. And I think it's absolutely necessary that the responsibility of this is fixed by the WHO. I mean, China has managed to sort of ward off the pressure for the time being, but the world community must get down to serious business, and they must identify the people responsible for this, what caused it, because it is, I mean, imagine for a one man's killing, you can be hauled up for murder. And here is a country, you can't allow that country to get away. I mean, any country, whether it's China or any other country, you can't allow that country to get away with now nearly 5 lakh deaths across the world. 5 lakh deaths is almost, I mean, they would be very soon approaching the World War casualty figures in another 2-3 months. So, I mean, this is a huge number, and the responsibility for this must be fixed on the country and its instruments, whose negligence and whose carelessness led to this spread of the coronavirus. Now, talking of this, talking of the defense doctrine. Now, I think what you mean by defense doctrine is the national security doctrine. When both are almost similar. Now, first of all, I must tell you, and the audience particularly, the generals would of course know, that this country unfortunately has no national security doctrine, which has puzzled me all along. And at different fora and at different conferences, I have always said, why don't we have a national security doctrine? I mean, you can download the US national security doctrine from the internet. You can download the UK national security doctrine from the internet, but the national security doctrine of India is nowhere printed. I was a member of the National Security Advisory Board. There also I kept on hammering that this thing must be finalized, but nobody was prepared to listen, and just no effort was made in that direction. And then in sheer disgust, 1 year, I said, to hell with you, I resigned my post from the NSAB. I mean, if you don't do serious business, then I'm not there to attend a talking shop. Now, first thing is that we must have a defense doctrine or a national security doctrine, and we must have it, and the sooner the better. Because in the absence of a doctrine, what happens is that the ruling party in power, its responses are governed by political considerations. Now, why should the political consideration of a particular party influence our response to a national security challenge? The response should be dictated by the national security doctrine, which must be laid down, which must be codified, which must be defined, and which must be there in black and blue, black and white. So the first thing is that we must have a national security doctrine. Another thing in this context, which I would like to mention, is that while national security doctrine is important, equally important is the fact that we must develop comprehensive national power. Now, by comprehensive national power, I mean not only the military muscle, it also means the strength of the police and the central armed police forces. It means the strength of your economy. It means the strength of your society. It means how good your environment is. In fact, the comprehensive national power is the sum total of of our power and a strength in different spheres of life, including military, police, and other spheres. Now, in terms of comprehensive national power, we are not badly off. I mean, sometime back, USI had prepared an estimate of India's comprehensive national power, and they said that India comes 6th after US, Germany, Japan, China, and Russia. India is at number 6, which is not too bad. But the USI publication mentioned something very significant. He said it's one thing to have strong comprehensive national power, and it is another thing to be using that comprehensive national power. I mean, in the past we have seen, I won't say that of the NDA government, but in the past we have seen that while we had the power, we had the strength, while we had the muscle, while we had the firepower, but we were very hesitant in using that to uphold national prestige or national honor or national integrity. With the result that, what happened at Kandahar is well known. We did not use the weapons which we had, which should have been used. What is the NSG meant for? What are the Prithvi missiles meant for? Instead of surrendering at Kandahar. So, not using comprehensive national power is another dilemma that we are facing. Now, the subject of discussion, you want this to be from border security to human security. Now, border security is very important. You cannot get away from defending your borders. Borders are very important. We have borders with 6 neighboring countries. We have China and Bangladesh. We have about 4,000 kilometers with both these countries. Then we have another 3,000 kilometers with Pakistan. Myanmar, we have 1,600 kilometers. Nepal, 1,700 kilometers. And Bhutan, about 700 kilometers. Total works out to a little more than 15,000 kilometers. Now, add to that the coastline of more than 5,000 kilometers and another about 2,000 kilometers of island territories. So it all works out to more than 17,000 kilometers of land and sea borders. Now, earlier we thought that the Himalayas are impregnable, but we know what happened in 62, so the Himalayas have to be defended. Earlier we thought that the coastlines are, well, reasonably safe, but we know what happened in Mumbai. So today we have reached a situation where we cannot take chances with our borders just anywhere. The entire land border has to be defended, the entire coastline has to be defended. So defending 17,000 kilometers of land and sea borders is a stupendous task. It's a stupendous task, and it has to be undertaken because you do not know where the enemy would exploit the situation. You just cannot leave any border undefended. So border security is important. It is very important, and it will continue to be important in future also. You know what is happening in the Galwan Valley. You know the transgressions by China across in different sectors along the Indo-China border. You also know that taking advantage of the pandemic, Pakistan has been pushing in more infiltrators, and there is an attempt to sort of fuel the insurgency in Kashmir. You also are aware that they tried to reenact Pulwama recently. So, the China and Pakistan have been taking advantage of the pandemic to stir trouble across our borders. And unfortunately, Nepal has also joined that league. So border security is very important. But what needs to be emphasized today is that human security, which had not received due importance and due priority and due weightage so far, is also very, very important. Because if your people are getting killed and you are not able to protect them, and if you are not able to give them proper medical care, then everything falls. Everything falls apart. So human security is very important, and in the context of human security, now mind you, human security has also a multi-dimensional angles. So you can link so many things with human security, but I would like to concentrate only on two. One is the health. Health sector definitely needs priority. Our health infrastructure must improve, and the other sector which needs attention in the context of human security is strengthening the police. Because after all, it is police which protects your life, which protects your property, which can protect your honor. So police has to be strong, and police today is in a very bad shape. Everybody knows that, and we have been talking of police reforms for now more than 2 decades, but the state governments are unwilling to accept the directions of the Supreme Court, and whatever action they have taken has been farcical so far. The police is very short of manpower, at least 500,000 it is short of manpower. It is very deficient in transport, in communications, in forensic. There are tremendous deficiencies in all these. So police must be modernized, it must be made progressive, and it must be the structural reforms mandated by the Supreme Court, they must be introduced, and they must be accepted by the state governments if you want to have a progressive, modern police which will provide the foundations of a good criminal justice system in the country. So so I would sum up by saying that border security has been important. It will continue to be important, and we cannot afford to neglect border security. But the national security, the concept of national security or the concept of national defense must now include, in the context of whatever we have witnessed, human security also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your inputs. Thanks a lot. And thank you very much for keeping time for questions and answers, because I'm practically flooded with questions. And I'm sure I'll not be able to take them all, but definitely I'll try and give justice to many of them. If I may request Nirbhay Sharma ji and Zameer Uddin Shah ji, if they could please put on their cameras so that we can see you and we can ask questions to you. Okay, here it goes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The first question is coming from Rahul Deep Singh, and he asks the question to probably Nirbhay Sharma ji or Zameer Uddin Shah ji. How can non-demarcated national and international borders be protected from encroachments?
Zoom, would you take it on or shall I?
Yep, please go ahead, because I think Shahji is having some technical issue.
Right. I think it's a very good question and very relevant in today's context. It will take a while to explain the entire thing, but what I would say, and like what I had mentioned, that the concept of hard borders only came into being about 100 years ago. Before that, except for certain parts of Europe and the world, borders were never demarcated, or particularly in the context of our northern Himalayan borders, these were not. Now, we go back into history and try and put out our claims to say, all right, this was the line up to which we exercised our sovereignty. Sovereignty also must be understood those days in a different context, because you had these outposts, let's say DBO, like all the place which is very much in the news, was an outpost where the traders came who had an authority letter from the Maharaja of J&K or his representative, and went along and thereafter went out to trade either into Central Asia or Tibet and beyond, and vice versa. So like this, there were these undefined borders where your jurisdiction or your claim territorially remained up to a point. The second aspect was cultural and the economic connectivity which was there. Now, with all this, what has happened in our context is this, that when China looked at its strategic requirements and without any consideration to what was an alignment and an understanding and an agreement or a convention which was signed between Tibet and India with Chinese representative present in 1914, they altered the status quo and constructed a highway through Akshay chain. 62 war happened, and thereafter what happened is known. But what is important is that in the last 40 years or so, there have been attempts made to somehow make this border at least identify where the differences are. Now, differences have also been
to this, because we are we the common citizens of India, we really don't know what happens at the border. But the issue that is happening or going on with China, so that region is also like this. I mean, no clear demarcated borders, and you keep going here and there.
I'll tell you, there are no demarcated borders. I was there when I was in the army. I was part of a joint working group which we worked with China to identify our borders. But China, having annexed Akshay chain, was in no mood to settle the border, and they wanted to extend the border westward so that the highway which they had constructed would get depth. Now, as far as thereafter, there have been peace and tranquility agreement wherein certain amount of understanding was reached on ground. But understanding on ground is very dynamic. Today, I take out a patrol and I say, look, this is my line of actual control. On tomorrow, the Chinese patrol comes in, no, this is not our line of control. But ultimately, we had narrowed down to a certain number of pockets where there were disputes. We had our own understanding of line of actual control. Because this concept of line of actual control also came into being only, I think, when Mr. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. Before that, we did not accept Chinese ingress at all. So
right.
Now, when that happens, there are problems. And now, of late, because we were building up our infrastructure, which Chinese infrastructure is probably much better because they are on a plateau. Now we are building up that, and that is causing concern to China. So that's why there is a problem. It's very difficult to say on the map or sitting here
True.
to where the border is.
Thank you. So that's the reason we keep asking such questions, because we civilians, we don't really understand how exactly it happens there. Well, the next question, I don't know whether it's really in the context, but it comes from Mr. Ketan, and it comes from for Prakash Singh ji. I'm sorry, sir, but I really don't know if this question is in context, but the question is really interesting. The question says, do you really think that other country, without the consent of the another country, can declare its own borders, with the context of Nepal Parliament passing or declaring their own updated borders?
See, all borders have a historical context. And in that context, there are generally well-defined boundaries. And if there are any areas where there is some doubt or some reservation, the normal course is that the two countries would hold a discussion between them,
Yeah.
what belongs to whom, and then they should put forward their historical claims. And if both the sides are reasonable, some kind of agreement is arrived at. Now, between India and Nepal, to the best of my knowledge, there was no border dispute so far. This border dispute has been artificially raised recently by Nepal, in all likelihood at the behest of China, just to create open another front for India and create more discomfiture for India. So, I mean,
Okay.
border has never been a problem. In fact, it is one of the most open border. It is I think, one of the most open borders in the world, where people have been crossing from both the sides, this way and that, and no visa, nothing, no documents are required, and there are lakhs of Nepalese who are working in this country,
Yeah.
in the army, in defense, in paramilitary forces, and elsewhere.
And probably that's the reason this question came. I mean, never we heard any problem with Nepal, and all of a sudden this comes up.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your answer, sir. The next question is again coming to you, Prakash Singh ji, from Rushikesh Chauhan, and he asks, sir, do you think that artificial intelligence can help India to protect its people from inside and outside threats?
Well, artificial intelligence is a new asset, and it can definitely be very, very useful. The only problem is that you should use it in a manner where, I mean, it does not degenerate into what is called a surveillance state. I mean, artificial intelligence has been used by China to an extent where they have almost every individual in the surveillance. When somebody who recently came from China, he said that at every crossing, wherever you go, you are being photographed. So, I mean, artificial intelligence is fine, but make sure that you are using it only for defensive purposes.
The right way.
For the security of the state.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. If I may, because the question is coming for Zameer Uddin Shah ji. So, are you there with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. The question is, do you think should there be a scientific army inside every country, but whose members are from around the world,
No,
check on research and developments happening in that country? Could you hear me, sir?
I have not understood the question. What exactly does he mean by scientific?
Okay. So probably it says the international squad by saying scientific army. But the question says that should there be a team of people working in a country which is from different countries, and that team keeps eye in the country that what is going on, what kind of research is going on. Do you think that should be done?
Oh, that would be against the security of the country, having an international team in the country. We already have enough scientific manpower to deal with any problems concerning chemical and biological warfare. So I don't think there is requirement of any international army being positioned in India.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you very much. Well, the next question is coming open-ended. I mean, to everyone in the panel. So whosoever wants to take it, please go ahead. The question is coming from Sachin Kulkarni ji. The question is, in a well-cultured and educated family, keep scrolling, sorry. In well-cultured and educated family, parents maintain peace and harmony among every member. So like the same way, why not a prime minister who's a parent of a country ensures this? Otherwise, we would keep forcing threats coming like this. We might keep facing threats. So my question is, how good leader brings peace and prosperity to a development of country? So what is the importance of a leader in establishing peace? Open to all. Who would like to take it? Sharma sir, please, yes.
I'll just, it's a very interesting question. Obviously, and the answer is very obvious. If you have a good leader, he will lead you, and he'll lead you to peace and prosperity. There is no doubt at all. But what we must understand that in any country or in any society, there are views, and we should always respect views, and it's the sign of a confident nation that you respect different views and different opinions and thereafter move ahead. But when it's a question of national interest and the core values, the leader knows exactly how to go about it, and it is a challenge to his genius to see that the nation is coming along. And we have never had a case where the nation has not rallied behind the leader whenever there's been a crisis. So I don't think we need to worry on that account, but what we must understand that has to be, and there must be a space for people to voice their opinion and concern, which may be out of ignorance or maybe out of genuine concern about it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
A good parent treats all children equally. And it is very, very important for the progress of the country that the leader treats all sections of the population with the same yardstick and equally. That is very, very important for progress of the country.
Thank you, sir. Prakash Singh ji, any comments from your side?
No, I think it has been answered. Let us proceed.
Sure, thank you. Well, the next question is coming from Vatsalangiri. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right, but the question is really interesting. The question says, sir, do you think that the big bad boys of the world, like US or China, would ever be asked questions for their misdeeds? Well, I don't know whom to push this question to. Anyone, Prakash Singh ji or Sharma ji?
I'm prepared to answer. The bad boys, particularly those who are heading dictatorial regimes, they all have the same end. All dictators are either overthrown or assassinated, or something happens to them. Something happens to them. It's rare to see a dictator sort of quitting the office and gracefully retiring. So, I mean, anything could happen to, without naming, wherever you have a dictator, this fate awaits him. Because, I mean, today you may be an emperor, and then tomorrow you'd be not only without clothes, maybe without your fuel also. So,
right.
Dictators have the same end.
Thank you, sir. Sharma ji, any inputs?
Well, I think he said it very clearly, but what we need to understand that there is, when we are talking about you look at what has happened in the past. There is an old saying that victory has many fathers, defeat is an orphan. This is also a hard reality that whoever wins carries the narrative. It may not be the right narrative, but that's how the world moves. We've got to be realistic about it.
Thank you, sir. And the time is really running out from my hands, but I would like to take this last question, which is coming from Ranjit Rai. And the question is really interesting. We are a country which proposes and practices the free press, the freedom of press and media. Will this be used by and exploited by our enemies by investing in our media houses and tweaking the national interests? It's an interesting question. Again, not targeted for anyone, open to panel. Prakash Singh ji or Verma ji?
Yeah.
Well, I think I talked about this in passing, but as far as opinions are concerned and free media is concerned, it is the sign of the strength of a country and to how confident a country is that you should accept criticism and counter views. There should be no doubt about it. You only want to muzzle an opinion when you feel threatened. I don't think we need to worry too much.
No, but to be very honest with you, sir, just talking about this media and news that keep coming. Zameer Uddin Shah sir is back with us. Thank you very much for joining us back. Well, we were talking about media, sir, and a question came in the same context. And a few days back, when this tension with China started, and then there was a news that we all saw on a national channel that, and they typically they keep showing the army and army power comparison. How many tanks one country has, how many tanks we have, how many missiles they have, how many missiles we have. And when we saw the entire comparison, we found ourselves I don't want to use any other word, but little pressured when we started looking at the other side because their size is also big and their numbers are also big. So, do you think such kind of news should be shared, or how do we look at it, Shahji?
I would say there's nothing to really to be worried about. According to what I have read, China has got various other problems. It is worried about USA. It's worried about Hong Kong. It's worried about Taiwan. It is worried about Xinjiang. So what they can spare is about 2 lakh troops on the Indo-China border. We have the same amount. And let me tell you that we have the advantage in air in terms of superiority of aircraft, in terms of better located airfields, and in terms of better trained pilots. Let me also tell you that the Chinese army faced the last operation in 1979 when they were given a bloody nose by the Vietnamese, a small country. Our soldiers.
Oh, unfortunately, I think we lost him, but his words were so encouraging and motivating. Thank you very much for that. But unfortunately, that brings me to the end of this questions and answers round. Thank you very much, Prakash Singh ji. Thank you very much, Sharma ji. Thank you very much for answering all these questions. But please be there. We haven't reached the end of the session yet. Now, it is indeed my honor and privilege see that our beloved founder, Honorable Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karat, sir, is here with us. I would like to request him if he would like to share his thoughts on this session with us. Over to you, sir.
I'm really grateful to Nirbhay Sharma ji, Zameer Uddin Shah Sahab, and Prakash Singh ji. They have very appropriately given the very advice and the guidelines regarding this very issue which we have been discussing today, redefining the defense doctrine, border security and human security. Under the main issue of eradication of biological and chemical weapons. And this is all because we have been really worried, not India alone, but the entire world. And even the most powerful nations of the world, like America, China, Russia, whatever, it is borderless now. It is a world as a family, really speaking. We are discussing this issue not for India alone, but possibly for every country and all the human beings. As I have been telling in the known human history, such a horrifying situation has never arrived. There have been the First World War, the Second World War. Many dangers have come and gone. But this particular danger of the coronavirus or the COVID-19 has caused a havoc. You know it, friends, that more than 160 to 170 nations of the whole world are under lock. They have confined every one of us in our homes. All the churches, the temples, the mosques, even Makkah, Medina, and all of the temples and the prayer halls of the whole world have been locked down. And that one command, as I have been telling you, and that command has been given because of this coronavirus, the COVID-19. I don't know, we are all really worried about that part. Yesterday only we discussed this issue. It's the invisible, should I call it enemy or a devil? But this has been a worry for all the human beings. And rather we are, because it has been a problem created by our country, China, whether the Nepal border or the China-Indo border. Those are comparatively, to my mind, different issues altogether. The issue is how to control this coronavirus, which has been causing the horrifying situation world over. whatever peace we have been seeing all around is nothing a real peace in that sense. But the human race, the human beings are at stake, and possibly we as an educational institution like World Peace University or many other institutions, we have a duty on how to really, somebody said that somebody had asked a question that whether these so-called powerful nations of the world who are engaged in the rat race or the game of power, and in that, starting with the hydrogen bomb, nuclear bombs, they have gone to the chemical weapons and ultimately the biological weapons too, which is completely invisible. And we do not know how or what way it will affect the entire human race. Our worry as a country, as a World Peace University, and the people like you, I'm really very happy that the views expressed by them have been very enlightening. I have been feeling educated myself, at least in some of these issues, especially when I see all these three people, very learned, scholarly people, the people who have a passion and a fire in their belly. Basically, the most important thing what I observed was all these three great men, they have a passion and a fire in their belly that they should do something for the whole of human race, going beyond the borders of India and possibly try to guide them and how to keep us safe and create some courage. We are waiting for some vaccine or something of that type, but whether how much time it will take, we do not know. And possibly the worry is about how to control this part. To my mind, I feel that the presently what has happened is it is the ego, possibly the arrogance of power, and the overpowering greed. So much of greed and so much of thirst for power and the supremacy. I don't know, Mr. Prakash Singh ji said very appropriately that there is a nature, there is a universal law which will teach them the lesson. Because if you are too much arrogant and too much thirsty of power and the greed for power, possibly the universe always has a solution. You know it, friends, that how it is, I don't know. But America, the Spain, the Rome, the Paris, the New York, London, these so-called advanced countries or the cities, and those cities have been facing more horrifying situations. This is also a nature's game. When I have been talking about this very small booklet, which I have been showing every time, this book has been giving the universal secrets. The 9 universal secrets I said to you many times, I repeat it again. It's nothing new for my audience. But remember, friend, these secrets which were revealed 7 to 20 years back by philosophers and Nareshwara, which ultimately I have been telling you, it's like the present situation, what I'm talking, where you are sitting, where I'm sitting, this very system of IT and computer and artificial intelligence, the Google and the Facebook and everything has made this whole world one. It's a global village. So we are more worried about the whole global human community, the human race, and for which this is one of the very, very dangerous game which is played by some country. I don't want to name the country, but the place from which it has come, is it by error or is it man-made? Many of the people have been saying all the time that this is a man-made virus in the laboratory by mistake or by error or by in the game of the development of the biological weapons. Who knows? But there has to be a controlling authority somewhere. And possibly the time has come. Yesterday I said to you that the United Nations should be given, somebody has to come forward and to have some control for all the nations of the whole world. World as a one government may not be possible. I don't know what will happen. But at least today, whatever body we have at the supreme level is the United Nations, which should be given some authority to decide. And as Mr. Prakash Singh ji said, that there has to be somebody to find out who is the culprit, who has made this error, and what will be his responsibility, what is his accountability. So somebody has to be made accountable, and if you want to live very peacefully, happily, I said to you yesterday, friends, even for the family system itself, we have to see that our time-tested family systems, they must continue to remain, otherwise it will be irresponsible. You know it very well, what is happening world over. There has to be a harmony and order, not the disorder. So this is creating a disorder in the whole of the human race, and possibly, maybe India has a role to play. Mother India, I will say, this India has a role to play, and whatever the time-tested values of the Vedic wisdom or the various other scriptures, the great philosophers, thinkers of this country, and even St. Francis of Assisi, some such very positive-minded people who have been giving these guidelines, is the need of the hour. It will take some time. I know that by just quickly giving a signal will make a change. But education and training, even to these people, I don't know what is our life, what is the game which is going on. But certainly I have a feeling, sincere feeling, that yours and mine, all of them, the Vice Chancellor, the learned people like Mr. Sharma ji and Mr. Shah and Mr. Prakash Singh, I feel that we have to educate not only ourselves, but to the people around. And in the long run, we have to create a holistic, peace-loving society, the main mission. That change of mindset, change of attitude, and minimizing the greed and the lust for power. And that itself has caused this biological weapons tendency, the chemical weapons tendency, which is very invisible, horrifying. I don't know, I showed to you also this book day before, I repeat it again. Is a book of Hiroshima. It's something very unique. You know, the first hydrogen bomb when dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the book says it's the bell of Hiroshima. I'm telling you again, the bell of Hiroshima has started ringing once again on its own. There is nobody to ring it. Possibly this coronavirus or COVID-19 has been trying to ring and giving a clarion call and a warning, a command to the entire world to please understand and arise and awake is the main issue. But can you see this horrifying situation? If one hydrogen bomb can create, as Mr. Prakash Singh said, that we need to really not only curb biological and chemical weapons, but possibly we are sitting on a ticking bomb, as I said yesterday. It's horrifying. What for we are creating these stockpiles of the weapons? What for biological weapons? What for the chemical weapons? Is it for something for the benefit of the society? No. Possibly in the long run, we will have to think tens of times, and we have to educate the new generation. The new generation, our India itself has 130 crores of people, and the whole world 7 billion people. What is their fate? And why are you creating such a horrifying situation, a very dreadful situation, by your own self? It's not the nature which is playing this game. Possibly universe has its own laws. But friends, remember, we have to awaken ourselves, we have to educate ourselves, we have to understand the ultimate reality. As I said to you, the schools of MIT, schools of consciousness are going to come up. Said by Penrose or Dr. Einstein. And I have a feeling that that will make our society a little wiser, and especially the leaders, those who are controlling these nations. And their arrogance and their supremacy race has to be minimized. That's my personal feeling. It's, of course, we have to perform our duty. I'm grateful once again to all the speakers of today, very learned speakers. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. And it was indeed our honor and privilege to have Nirbhay Sharma ji, Zameer Shah ji, and Padma Shri Prakash Singh ji. Thank you very much to all of you for coming here and sharing your thoughts with us. Almost 400 people heard your thoughts, and really, really motivating words. And we could all see that, as our beloved founder, Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karad sir also said, that we could see that the fire in your belly to serve the humanity. Thank you very much for sharing that feeling with us. With this, I would like to share with everyone in the audience that our next session is scheduled to start at 4 p.m. sharp. So please make sure that you find the new link to reach to this particular session right on time, maybe 5 to 10 minutes ahead of time. Session 7, COVID-19, virus in the body or soul. A very, very important topic in which we would be having an eminent speakers with us, Maulana Muhammad Madani ji. We would be having Shri Anil Pradhan ji. We would be having Acharya Shri Pundrik Goswami ji, And we would also be having the President of Central Tibetan Administration, Dr. Lobsang Sangyeji, with us. We would also be having the former President of South Asian University, Dr. Kavita Sharma ji. So many esteemed speakers are lined up for the next session, which is scheduled to begin at 4 p.m. sharp. So I request each one of you to log in at 3:45 for 7th session, COVID-19, virus in the body or soul. Thank you very much once again, each one of you, for joining this session. See you back at 4 p.m. Thank you very much.